Hello and welcome to Viewpoint. I'm joined today by Artem Shevalev. He's Ukraine's Deputy Finance Minister. Mr. Shevalev, many thanks. Many thanks for joining us. I suppose the main pressing issue of the day for Ukraine in the financial sphere is the IMF bailout. We've had this month Christine Lagarde, the chief of the IMF, saying that Ukraine needs to show more progress on reforms because the bailout is in danger. What's the view in the finance ministry?
We do believe that IMF cooperation is absolutely critical to maintain the economic recovery that we see, fragile but economic recovery still, that we've been seeing in Ukraine over the last couple of quarters.
You expect Ukraine to go into growth this year after a year of heavy recession?
Well, yes, of course. It will be. We had 2 years of rather heavy recession. The global economic turbulence didn't help. Our key export industries suffered tremendously, but yes, we do expect that this year we will be entering the growth territory already. And as I said, the IMF cooperation is absolutely critical in this respect. The original package, the $40 billion bailout package, out of which $17.5 billion was the IMF program, that helped us to support the reform program that this government has been promoting over the last 18 months.
Because you had, how much of that so far?
It's in 2015 we have received 2 tranches, so it's a work in progress. Unfortunately we've missed the 2 more tranches last year, so this is what we are trying to achieve this year. The latest review of the program and the new memorandum is currently being prepared and worked on. We do hope that we will achieve certain understanding on that within coming weeks, which would allow us to go for the next tranche. That will be the 3rd tranche of the program, and then continue the program successfully for the rest of the year and beyond.
We've had this month as well some sort of political instability. We had the economy minister tendering his resignation, and he said his reforms that he'd been trying to enact had been blocked by sort of vested interests, I suppose, and people trying to do politics in the old ways that we had. The government survived a no-confidence vote recently. So, I mean, from the IMF's point of view, this is all, I suppose, rather worrying. What assurances can Ukraine offer now that this is sort of behind us?
It's a very good question. I think it's somewhat ironic, but the resignation of Minister Abramovich was, I believe, actually a symbol of reform actually happening, because his resignation resulted from a certain pushback from the vested interest, as you said, from the powers or people around the powers that do believe and do support the old ways. The fact that this struggle is happening means that there is a very strong push for reform. The government is here. Yes, we had this resignation, but as you've seen, the rest of the cabinet remain in place. The key reform ministers, including the Minister of Finance, Natalie Jaresko, stay in their positions, stating very strongly that they do believe that they can continue on the reform path.
Tell us a little bit more about Natalie Jaresko, the head of the finance minister. She's often hailed as one of the leading reformers in Ukraine. In fact, people talk about her potentially as the next prime minister of Ukraine, even. What's it like to work under her? I mean, presumably your ministry has faced some of the issues that Abramovich has talked about in the economy ministry as well, but...
Well, we probably are a bit more lucky because the Ministry of Finance is reforming. We're more dealing with large scale, the bird's eye view of the processes, whilst the Ministry of Economy was more involved with the state-owned enterprises, and this is where the major corruption rant seeking behavior was happening, and that's why they had to fight with that on a daily basis. Our minister is, I believe, one of the greatest reformers in this country, and her presence in the cabinet is absolutely vital. I will not comment on the rumors or speculations about her promotion to the prime minister. It's her choice. She's very dedicated to the reform process within the Ministry of Finance. Of course, the changes in the State Fiscal Service, our tax administration, are absolutely critical, and we're pushing extremely strongly on that front, both in changing the administration, the way tax is administered, because this is one of the crucial problems that businesses cite in Ukraine.
Mr. Shevalev, if I may, tell us a little bit about your own personal journey to come here into Ukraine and take part in the reform agenda. I mean, I understand you're also very much wanting to push forward the reform program. You came back into Ukraine and joined the ministry following the Euro-Maidan revolution here at the winter of 2013-2014.
Well, I came a year after that. I've had a rather successful public finance career in London, where I've spent previous 18 years of my life. I came back to join Natalie's team at the Ministry of Finance. Why? Very simply because I believe in the change. I believe that it's absolutely vital that this change is delivered as fast as possible. We have to turn the country around, and we have months instead of decades that some other countries had to deliver this change. Now there are some priorities which I can focus my attention on. This is reform of the state-owned banks, reform of the way the international financial institutions operate in the country. We are trying to promote transparency in the use of the donors funding, in the use of the IFI funding in the country. We are trying to introduce absolute new standards, international standards of corporate governance in the state banking sector.
It seems to me, I wonder, because there have been other opportunities to come back to Ukraine. We had the Orange Revolution some years ago prior to the Maidan. But it seems like this current wave of reform and this uprising has drawn a lot of Ukrainians back into the fold, those who, like yourself, have worked in London, in Washington. It seems to me it says something about the current moment in Ukraine, that do you see a real possibility here now for change that wasn't there previously?
I wouldn't be here otherwise. Absolutely. I do believe that the frustration post-Orange Revolution in 2004, 2005 does have a role. Many people felt that we could step in the same sort of troubles that we did 10 years ago. But again, the team that we have here, we do believe that this time is different. There is a very comprehensive desire to change the country. We essentially lost 10 years, which is almost half of the country's history, and now it is the time to change. It's not helping that the global economy has slowed down tremendously. Ukraine does heavily rely on its export industries. But on the other hand, it's a blessing in disguise, because this would allow us to change these industries. It would allow us to change the business processes. This is a unique opportunity.
Does he feel, I mean, in the moment it's in a moment of turmoil in a sense. But I suppose you see in this an opportunity for major change.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. Many people complain that we have lost Russia as a trading partner, and the Russian aggression, they seem even not to notice the Russian aggression, or not willing to notice that. But again, if you look at that, most of our trade with Russia was a legacy of the Soviet times. The inefficient industries, low energy efficiency, very poor cost structure. Now we had a chance through this old turmoil to switch to something new. Of course, it's difficult to try and conquer new markets, but otherwise we would not even have had this opportunity.
We're almost coming to the end, unfortunately. So, I mean, with that in mind, I mean, Ukraine is very much looking forward. What ultimately then is your vision as we move ahead? Is it that Ukraine becomes very much more integrated into Europe and leaves Russia behind, or would you like to see something perhaps more where a middle path Ukraine has strong trade links with both sides and strong political links.
I do believe that Ukraine has to first of all, to guard its national interests. It's just the fact that the Ukrainian national interests are now with the association with the European Union. That's where the markets are more promising. That's where the technologies are much more advanced. That's where the legal environment is much more comfortable and conducive to doing business. That's where Ukrainian choice is.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll have to wrap it up, I'm afraid. But thank you very, very much for coming to speak with us.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for having me.
You've been watching Viewpoint. I've been joined by Artem Shevalev. He's Ukraine's Deputy Finance Minister. That's all we have time for. Many thanks for watching, and do join us again.